What if Earth had rings like Saturn? It's a question that sounds like a sci-fi dream or the opening line to a bad, astronomy-themed pickup line. But let's assume for a moment that Earth suddenly wakes up one morning and says, "You know what? I'm tired of being plain. I want rings." Big, flashy, Saturn-style rings. First of all, Earth could have rings. It's not against the rules. Saturn's not hoarding them. In fact, scientists think Earth might have had rings at some point. Maybe after a massive asteroid impact, like the one that gave us the Moon. The difference is, Earth's rings didn't stick around. Gravity, atmosphere, and the annoying habit of rocks falling down eventually ruined the look. But let's imagine, just for fun, that Earth does have rings, proper, gorgeous, icy rings, maybe 100,000 kilometers wide, stretching out in a perfect plane around the equator. What would that look like from the ground? Well, forget the stars. If you live near the equator, the rings would dominate the sky. At night, they'd be brighter than the moon, shimmering like a giant cosmic halo. During the day, they'd still be visible, pale, ghostly arcs cutting across the blue sky, constantly reminding you, Earth has upgraded its aesthetic. But if you live closer to the poles, tough luck. The rings lie in the plane of the equator, so from higher latitudes, you'd only see them edge on. And since they'd be razor thin, just a few kilometers thick at most, they'd look like a bright line across the sky. Beautiful, yes, but not quite the galactic art installation you'd get if you lived in, say, Quito. Cities near the equator would become instant tourist meccas. Forget Paris. Forget New York. Everyone would be flying to the ring zone just to catch the next solar eclipse with rings. Instagram would explode. Sunset with rings would be its own hashtag genre. But of course, it's not all beauty and wonder. There's the whole matter of physics. Earth's gravity could hold the rings in place, sure. But Earth also has something Saturn doesn't. Weather, and an atmosphere, and humans who like to launch things into space. The rings would be unstable in the long run. Tiny bits of the ring would gradually drift downward due to atmospheric drag and get burned up, like an endless meteor shower. This sounds cool, until you realize it would affect satellite communication. That beautiful glowing sky also means a slightly higher chance of your GPS thinking you're in the Pacific when you're actually in a coffee shop in London. Speaking of GPS, the rings would reflect a lot of light and radiation. Not enough to fry you on the spot, but possibly enough to mess with climate patterns. And then there's orbital mechanics. Those pristine rings would be smack in the way of low Earth orbit. The International Space Station would have to dodge chunks of ice the size of refrigerators traveling at 7 kilometers per second. Rockets? Better be very careful where you launch. Want to go to the moon? Better not take the ring lane. Now, let's talk shadows. Rings would cast massive, permanent shadows on the surface of Earth, depending on their thickness. Regions under the rings might experience less sunlight than others. Imagine growing up in a place where noon is always twilight. That's not poetic. That's vitamin D deficiency. Also, if you're wondering whether these shadows would move, they would, because the rings stay aligned with the equator, and Earth is tilted. Different parts of the planet would be in and out of shadow throughout the year. That means seasons would not only be based on your latitude, but also on whether you're currently under the ring or out in the open. In short, the weather forecast just got weirder. But we're not done. Let's go full sci-fi. If Earth had rings and you lived in the right place, you could watch eclipses with double shadows. You could get ring rise and ring set. Poets would never shut up about it. Musicians would write songs like "Underneath the Rings Tonight." Children would grow up wondering why other planets look so boring. And if Earth had rings for millions of years, they'd be baked into our mythology, religion, and culture. Ancient civilizations would have built temples aligned not just to the stars, but to the rings. Maybe Stonehenge wouldn't be about the solstice. Maybe it would be the grand observatory of the ring shadow. And hey, imagine being an astronaut orbiting above the rings. You'd look down and see them stretching across the planet like a glassy, glowing disk. The view alone would be worth the years of training, oxygen deprivation, and freeze-dried spaghetti. But here's the final twist. Earth already does have a kind of ring. It's called the Clark Belt, a region about 36,000 kilometers above the equator where geostationary satellites orbit. It's invisible, silent, and full of communication satellites. Not quite Saturn-level majestic, but in a way, we already live on a ringed planet. Just one made of metal boxes and insurance contracts. So, could Earth have rings? Technically, yes. Should Earth have rings? Maybe not, if we like our climate and orbital stability. But would it be awesome? Oh yes. At least until someone tries to mine the rings for resources and ends up turning the equator into a planet-wide glitter explosion, which honestly might still be worth it.